Mick Gooda, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you.
Now, you said today that you are, and you used the word terrified, that the yes side is going to lose the referendum. Why do you think that support has declined?
I think it declines over time. You know, you get the constitutional experts. I was involved when I was in the Human Rights Commission in the expert panel on constitutional recognition, and the things we learned then, a few important lessons. You know, if Australians don't know what they're voting for, they generally vote no, and you'll start on a high approval rating, and then it goes down over time. It was the same with the Republic referendum. So what I'm worried about now is these a series of polls coming out showing decline in the yes support, and it's now starting to look like a trend to me, and that's when I started to turn my mind to what would this place look like if there was a no vote. And you used the word terrified, and I am actually terrified of what will happen to Australia as a country and to me as an Aboriginal advocate and lots of other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander advocates. I would feel totally rejected by the Australian population, and the work I've done over the years and the work lots of people have done over the years would be repudiated.
The big debate at the moment is whether the Voice should be able to speak to the executive government as well as the Parliament. Now, you're proposing that you remove that aspect of the proposal, but wouldn't removing the Voice's ability to speak to executive government water down the impact of the Voice?
Well, the Uluru Statement and the Uluru Dialogues talked about a voice to Parliament. I wouldn't compromise on that, of course, otherwise what's the use of having a referendum? But I think in practical terms, and I've been around a bit, if there's a group of Aboriginal people put together that's broadly representative of the community across Australia, I don't think there's any doubt they would advise government anyway. And in reverse, while that group's there, the government would go to them fairly regularly about their opinions. So I don't know whether you need to have that bit in the Constitution. I think the voice to Parliament is enough. Our voice to Parliament is enough, so we can actually have that voice established in the Constitution. I think we will see it progress and evolve over time, and people will come to it. All sorts of people will come to it looking for advice because it would be broadly representative of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community.
At the same time, Mick Gooda, a number of your colleagues, particularly those working on the referendum working group, have said that capacity for the Voice to make representations to the executive as well as Parliament is crucial for its future power and success, for it to be impactful. The question is, why would you give away something that your colleagues have worked so hard to include?
We've all worked at this, but it comes a time when you've got to make, the pragmatism has got to come to the fore here. And if this is one of the sticking points, and I'm told from people on the right side of politics, it's one of the sticking points, and one of the major sticking points for some people, I could see it not being that necessary, and I think the body would give advice to government anyway. So whether you need that in the Constitution, I'm not sure, but if it's one of those stumbling blocks that we're confronting right now, and we're seeing this downward trend in these polls, a no vote would be absolutely, the worst thing that could ever happen to us as Aboriginal people and to Australia as a nation, because we'd be looked around the world as the new South Africa, having rejected Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people when they ask something pretty simple. We want a voice to Parliament.
Now, have you talked to your colleagues on the referendum working group and the engagement group that you were part of? Have you talked to them about the possibility of making what will be a big step to cut out the right of the Voice to make representations to the executive?
I've had a couple of conversations. I think I guess a couple of them tried to counsel me on this, but I think it's important enough to make a stand here. I'm not one for being out in the media that much. Even when I was Social Justice Commissioner, I found it a bit of a drag to do media, to be quite honest. I work in the background. That's what my life was like before. And so I just think there's times when you just got to make a stand. And apart from people on the working group, there's been a lot of people ringing me today saying, I think you're sort of on the right track and keep on going. So we'll see what happens. I think sometimes you need that intervention from outside the insider group to throw something else on the table, and this is me having a go because I'm really worried about if the polls keep trending the way they are, that it's very likely there will be a no vote.
Now, aside from other Indigenous leaders, and you said you've had a lot of phone calls today after raising this possibility, have you spoken to either side of politics, either to the Prime Minister and his office or to Peter Dutton today about what you're proposing?
No, not at all. I've put. I'm sure I'll be talking to the Prime Minister's office shortly, but haven't done that yet, and haven't reached out to Peter Dutton's office at all. So I just sort of thought this is this is my contribution to this, because I'm thinking my kids, my grandkids, if there's a no vote, and I'm going to keep on fighting for the yes vote, even if that thing stays in there about advice to executive government. I will be out there campaigning hard for a yes vote. I don't think I can do anything else, and so says a lot of advocates.
So, and just briefly, in the past 24 hours, we've seen two major sporting codes joining the NRL in their support for the voice. Just briefly, what's the material impact of those statements from the sporting codes?
It's so important. Australia's a sporting nation. You think about the leadership that these sporting codes provide, the number of people that turn up, and I think it's important that this is a time we need leaders to stand up, and the leaders in those sporting codes have stood up. I think it's really, really important to get that message across to the mums and dads, the people, punters who turn up to watch a game on the weekend, to say, this NRL, AFL, Rugby Australia, Soccer Australia support this recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I think that's a great message to give to a whole lot of people.
Mick Gooda, you said you prefer the back rooms, but I really appreciate you coming into the front room tonight. Thanks for joining us.
I think I'll go back to the back room shortly, Sarah.